In the vast Sahel, where dust sometimes erases the roads and daily life tests the resilience of communities, a bold plan for renewal began to take shape. At the heart of a Burkina Faso facing political instability and economic hardship, a voice rose, calm yet determined, with one mission: to rebuild. This man did not come from the traditional political sphere. Ibrahim Traoré, trained as a military officer, presented himself as a servant of the people. Where others might have chosen an easier path, he committed to a more hands-on approach, working close to the field, accepting the demanding pace of construction sites instead of ceremonial honors. Media reports and commentators have mentioned pressures and offers that could have swayed his direction. According to these accounts, he maintained a course toward independence. Whatever the reality of such claims, the central message remained the same: focus on sovereignty and practical results for the population. The journey was not without challenges. Security concerns, attempted destabilization reported by the press, and alleged acts of sabotage. Each episode was framed by his supporters as a test that strengthened the determination to free the country from dependency and restore dignity. And so this story begins. A nation in difficulty, a leadership with a clear direction, and a people ready to believe in hope again. Reconstruction, it was said, would not start with speeches or international summits, but with material and method. In cities such as Kaya, Tenkodogo, and Gawa, damaged roads divided neighborhoods, delayed ambulances, and isolated markets and schools during the rainy season. From this observation came a simple circular economy idea: reuse worn-out tires as the base material for low-cost road construction, collected, cleaned, compacted into layers, and sealed with a locally developed polymer binder. These road sections were designed to withstand heat and humidity more effectively. The results shared by the teams showed roads significantly cheaper than conventional standards, more flexible and resilient. The first images, relayed by regional media, showed children running on these black roadways and traders reaching urban centers more easily. Burkina Faso was starting to breathe again. But the innovation was not just about engineering, it was about social organization. From collection to sorting to installation, thousands of young people were mobilized. With stained hands, sweat on their brows, and pride in their eyes, they built their country meter by meter. Local unemployment dropped on the active sites, morale rose, and with it came a renewed sense of dignity. Where others had seen only open-air dumps, the project demonstrated the value of a circular, ecological, and sovereign model. Delegations from Mali, Niger, and Chad came to observe the method. Some international media referred to it as an African green revolution. In traditional road construction circles, there was some skepticism, but a resource-constrained country had shown there were cheaper, better adapted local solutions. Ibrahim Traoré sought neither to impress nor to provoke. He built, repaired, and prepared for the next challenge: water. For a road, however solid, is of little use if it does not lead to an irrigated field and a thriving market. In the Sahel, it is often said that the rain decides everything. Yet the ambition expressed was to organize water resources. If the water does not come to us, we will find a way to reach it. To farmers in Basalogo, Dori, and Titao, long affected by drought, a network of canals and retention basins was proposed, a capillary system to collect scarce rainwater, store it smartly, and redistribute it year-round. Designed by Burkinabe teams and operated by young engineers trained in Ouagadougou and Bobo Dioulasso, these works were more than just trenches. They were acts of resilience. In Komki Ipala and other villages, farmers now show furrows brought back to life. Before it was only dust. Now it is water and plants, they say. Local indicators suggested strongly increased yields in just a few seasons. Food crops and vegetables were feeding markets, and some sectors even targeted exports. Above all, the project was restoring confidence to those once left behind. Young people who once dreamed of leaving were becoming agricultural entrepreneurs. Cooperatives were forming, and reliance on food aid was decreasing. African media called it the water miracle. Economic publications noted reduced imports in the region. And a question emerged internationally. What if the Sahel countries became largely self-sufficient? Because ultimately, it was not only water flowing through these canals, it was sovereignty returning. Faced with offers, pressures, or criticisms reported here and there, the public stance remained pragmatic. Keep going. Dig kilometers of channels, trace kilometers of hope. At the end of each waterway, a simple promise. Tomorrow, your children will no longer know thirst. After roads and water, Ibrahim Traoré looked toward the horizon. In the intense heat of the Sahel, he saw an inexhaustible resource, the sun. This sun would become the driving force of a new initiative, the creation of the first 100% solar-powered city in West Africa. In the heart of Burkina Faso's central plateau, the plans for an ecological city began to take shape. Not a city of imported glass and steel, but one adapted to the climate, rooted in local culture while embracing modern technology. Its name, Solaria Faso, a symbol and a statement. Every rooftop, whether on a home, a school, or a health clinic, was covered with photovoltaic panels. The streets were paved with recycled, locally produced materials. Public lighting, traffic signals, and internet networks all operated exclusively on solar energy. At the city's entrance, a message carved in stone read, "The light belongs to us." Yet, true to his vision, Ibrahim Traoré saw more than a technical project. For him, Solaria Faso was also a response to energy dependency. For decades, many African countries had relied on imported fuel and expensive generators. Now, Burkina Faso was producing its own electricity for its own citizens, while training an entire generation of solar technicians and engineers. At Joseph Kizerbo University, students told the press, "He is giving us not just light, but the ability to manage it ourselves." The impact was quickly visible. In surrounding villages, solar kits distributed by local businesses allowed households to light their homes at night. Children could study after sunset, hospitals could operate without interruption, and families could cook without harmful smoke. African news outlets called it a solar renaissance. International channels shared images of children playing among solar-equipped houses, women checking battery levels on their phones, and elderly residents walking under reliable street lighting. For large energy companies used to exporting to Burkina Faso, the shift was significant. Imports of fuel for power generation declined. This project strengthened energy independence and proved that a country could carve its own path in renewable energy. Solaria Faso was not just a group of buildings, it was a symbol, a territory fully committed to an African future where light is no longer a privilege but a right. Over time, the recycled tire roads, irrigation canals, and solar city began to inspire beyond Burkina Faso's borders. Once overlooked in international discussions, the country was becoming a laboratory for popular sovereignty. Delegations from Mali, Niger, Chad, and other nations visited, not to buy costly technology, but to learn from locally designed solutions. In universities in Dakar and Niamey, Burkina Faso's projects were cited as examples of resilience and homegrown innovation. Diplomatic ties also took shape. Burkina Faso signed a cooperation protocol with Mali on ecological road construction, with Guinea an agreement on agricultural data sharing, with Niger a joint initiative for managing water resources. Gradually, a regional dynamic was emerging, driven from within Africa. At a sub-regional summit, Ibrahim Traoré reportedly said, "The Sahel is not a border, it is a backbone. It is time for it to stand tall." For his supporters, the phrase captured a change in spirit, a Pan-African vision built not on distant conferences, but on concrete achievements, roads, canals, energy, and agriculture. Burkina Faso was positioning itself as a driving force in a new African geopolitical landscape where cooperation between neighboring states was becoming a strategic tool for meeting shared challenges. The black roads made from recycled tires are no longer a curiosity. They have become the arteries of a new Africa. The canals dug into the dust are no longer forgotten trenches. They are the nourishing veins of land coming back to life. And in the middle of the desert, a city has risen, solar-powered and free, as a silent commitment to future generations. Ibrahim Traoré has not simply governed, he has redefined priorities. In testimonies gathered by local media, some residents speak of outside proposals that would have taken him away from the country. Whether entirely accurate or not, these accounts reflect one clear perception: a choice to remain among his people and face challenges directly, rather than seeking comfort elsewhere. For him and his supporters, real wealth is not stored in distant accounts. It is found in the eyes of a child learning to read by Burkina Faso sunlight. This is not only a story of material development, it is a transformation of purpose, a promise to every farmer, every orphan, every person who once felt excluded, that Africa can rise on its own terms. The words Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré, major projects now resonate as rallying calls for part of Africa's youth. On the ground, changes are visible. In the Seno province, children arrive at school on time thanks to roads that hold even during the rainy season. In Gourma, farmers maintain their irrigation canals to protect harvests. In the neighborhoods of Ouagadougou, students study late into the night with solar power stored in local batteries. Social media is filled with videos, photos, and testimonies. Workers now calling themselves road engineers, solar panel installers becoming light technicians. Simple titles, but carrying honor and pride. An African editorialist summed it up: "What is happening in Burkina Faso is not just development, it is the reclaiming of the future." An industrial dimension. In the capital, an old warehouse has been transformed into a technology innovation workshop. D-printers run day and night, producing mechanical parts, soil moisture sensors, filters for solar pumps, and small agricultural drones. The sound of the machines mixes with conversations among young engineers, graduates and self-taught, united by a motto: made locally, designed globally. This movement is part of a national strategy called Grand Projet Souverain 2040, the Sovereign Grand Project 2040. It is based on three main pillars: homegrown research and development, funding Burkina Faso universities and laboratories, modular manufacturing, building local assembly lines adapted to African realities, horizontal partnerships, working with other global South countries outside traditional channels. In Bobo Dioulasso, a rural innovation center allows farmers to test locally made soil sensors connected to an open-source data network. In some high schools, coding is taught from the age of 12, not to leave for foreign tech hubs, but to build an innovation valley in the Sahel. The first results are tangible. By early 2025, nearly 28% of the components used in the national solar stations were produced locally, a modest figure, but unprecedented for a country that once imported almost everything. Technical delegations from Niger, Mali, Cameroon, and other nations have visited to witness this industrial renewal. A Cameroonian engineer visiting the site commented, "What I see here is not just a factory, it is a cry for independence, a long-term vision. For the first time in years, many young people in Burkina Faso are no longer dreaming of leaving. They are dreaming of designing, assembling, and optimizing. They dream of mastering the skills needed for the continent's future." The message is clear: roads built with recycled materials, canals delivering water year-round, a solar city producing its own energy. These are not the result of chance, but of a structured vision and collective effort. Beyond Burkina Faso's borders, this movement is helping nurture a pan-African awareness, an Africa where each country draws inspiration from the successes of others, where regional cooperation is no longer optional but essential, and where sovereignty is built from the ground up. The wind that sweeps across the Sahel no longer carries only the whispers of a waiting people. It now carries the heartbeat of a continent choosing to take its future into its own hands.